your hats. Heavenly Father, as we gather this evening, a bit deflated from this past Tuesday's election, we always have to remember to return to you. For if God be with us, who or what can be against us? For some reason, this past election night was not a good night here locally, nor our neighboring states. But we will learn from any mistakes we might have made, and we pray for those who may not have had wisdom in our opinion, that they will be enlightened to realize that America is great because of those last 4 words in American: I can, not the government. We ask you to bless each and every speaker that is here this evening, for our returning members, for our guests, and for all those who were brave enough to run during this past election. Give them peace and bless them for stepping forward. Amen. Amen. All right, we will stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Remain standing. If you remember last time this year, we were very happy because Donald Trump was elected as our president. So let's remember that. You're still in charge of certain things. So we're going to stand or remain standing as we honor our nation with the presentation of colors and the singing of our national anthem. Okay guys, I was praying about what kind of open remarks. The open remarks that I could make is what went wrong, what went right, but that would be just my opinion. So I'm just going to share with you, I went back to, if you could get to your seats and give silence please. Alright, so I'm just going to tell you where I was on election day. I did go back to Lehigh University, and so I went to Lehigh University and I spent a bit of time there. That was last year, if you remember, was at the banana factory, and they unfortunately put my name in the paper, and a Republican operative was there, and this, that, and the other thing. Oh my goodness. Anyway, so the bottom line, I went back there this year. It's now at a church adjacent to Lehigh University. By any chance, did the Lehigh students make it here? Oh, they're here. There are some. We got some numbers here. Stand up. Make sure someone wants that guy at the road. Did any of the DeSales students show up? Any of the DeSales students? Uh-oh. Well, we're going to get those Lehigh students. I'm going to make sure that they go to Lvtp to shoot some plays here. All right, so that was my promise that they showed. They came to the Northampton County Republican Committee banquet. We had a table of Lehigh students and a table of DeSales students, and I said, if they come to the tea party, we'll get you to go shoot plays over at Lvtp. So he said, definitely. So, anyway, exceptional Lehigh students. So I was at the floor. I'm just going to tell you what happened there. So I see them coming in. There's a young man there. He said he's from something called Project 26. I said, he said, what are you doing here? I said, I'm trying to make these kids think, because I know most of them where they're going to go. So I asked them first, what state are they from? New Jersey, Florida, Connecticut, Long Island. There was a girl, she said, well, I'm Jewish. I said, okay, that's great. So I said, and where are you from? She said, New York. I said, would you vote for Madonna if you were in New York City? She said, probably, I'm liberal. She said, I'm here for certain things. I said, abortion? She said, yes. I said, I spent a lot of time in Elizabeth. My neighborhood was predominantly Italian, Irish Catholics and Latino Catholics, and then it was Orthodox Jews. I said, those Orthodox Jews in my neighborhood in Elizabeth were all pro-life. She said, yeah, but that's them, not myself. Some of the other students, they were complaining about the economy and abortion. That was mainly what they were voting on. So I continued to talk to this gentleman from this Project 25, and he said, well, you're engaging the students wrong. I said, no, I don't think so, because I know they're going to vote one way. I'm just trying to encourage them to use what has been lost, which is critical thinking, trying to think things over. So I asked them, do they know what a tax bracket is? No. I asked them, do they know what trickle-down economics is? No. The boy that was with me, like I said, from Project 26, says, that's never worked before. I said, you're being paid by someone, that's trickle-down economics. I went to Chick-fil-A yesterday, I said to myself, that's trickle-down economics, because there's a person that owns that franchise, and he employs people. So he's totally wrong. I had it in Elizabeth, New Jersey, where I spent a lot of time, as some of you have known. I knew a gentleman who owned 11 McDonald's, a black gentleman, very professional. When they were trying to say the minimum wage is going to go up, he said, I'm going to have to fire some of my employees. I'm in business to make money, not to lose money. So what I was trying to do is engage and get better informed of what makes these young people think. So fortunately, not all of us, because we have some Lehigh students here who think differently. So thank you for attending here, Lehigh students. But it is sad that so many of them are one-issue voting, whether it be their little groceries that they're spending or abortion. They don't think of the whole picture. They don't have critical thinking. Very sad. Very sad. All right. Folks, again, literature put at the tables. What I will say is literature at the tables. A lot of people want to come in here and advertise different things. That's called group prospecting. So I say you're very smart, but we charge for advertising, so you have to clear anything with myself. So if you want to put something at the tables, kindly be respectful, see me, and I'll deem it worthy or not worthy. But you first have to be a member. If you're not a member, no discussion. I'm sorry. All right. We have three great speakers tonight, so when they're up here, kindly be quiet, listen to them, be respectful to them, okay? Turn off your cell phones. All right, our memory and treasury reports as of 11/2/2025, we have a total amount of members of 7,461. Regular members are members who are paid and in good standing. Associate members are people that show up, don't show up, but they're not paid members. They don't get to vote for those who are running for board seats, and that will happen next month. So the board seats will be up. Okay, so there are advantages of being a regular member. Our bank balance is $56,341.08. I want to thank Nora, our treasurer. Stand up, Nora. Smile. That's our treasurer. And we have a credit line of $24,000. Our membership renewal or joining questions and comments. So, in regards to the membership, are there any questions? We are moving to a subscription rate. So, in case you don't understand, the board did vote on that and we decided to give this a go. If you belong to something like Planet Fitness, they do a subscription rate. They charge you every month your credit card. We do not store your credit card. So first and foremost, if you're not a member, we're not just going to charge your credit card. We don't have access to that, okay? But we have decided we're going to give it that go. It's a little bit under $5 a month. But if you want to join tonight, again, it's 1 year is 25, 3 years is 70, and 5 years is 110. We are also doing what is called our Guns and Goodies raffle. And this is the third time we have done this. We have 5 handguns on there. The tickets are on your table. If you flip the back of the card, it tells you that if you win the gun, you don't want the gun, you can go to the gun shop and you can say, I don't want the gun. They will give you the amount of the gun, which they're ballpark $500 minus $50. They're in business to make money, okay? Or you could upgrade, you could downgrade, you could just buy ammo, okay? And then there's a lot of restaurants there. There's an opportunity to go to the Lehigh Valley Sporting Place. There's the belt buckle that I personally use to carry my gun. So there's a nice gun set. So there's a lot of good prizes on there. We're looking for sellers. If you're good at selling and you're able to sell 10 tickets, I will give you 1 free. So if you know 10 people and you sell 10, you get 1 free. You might be that winning person. And there is our next thing. That is the Guns and Goodies. Those are again the prizes there and the rules and the ways you collect your gun. So they're right there. All right, Fearless Meat Raffle. Again, we have a good relationship with this fall, which is called Fearless Fire Company, and they are doing a meat raffle. The tickets are 3 for $5, or as I mentioned, we have a special tonight, 9 for $15. That's only tonight, 9 for $15. All right? Are you guys awake here? You know, last night I drank a bumper. I woke up exhausted. All right, so anyway, 9 for $15. So the prizes are in the back. If they draw number 1, what do you win? Sausage. If they draw number 2, chicken breast. So they go around, they sell other types of tickets. All you need is 1 ticket to enter the day of the party. It's fun. You have to let Emily know she has a clipboard, and you attend the party. They have all kinds of other raffles going on. If you like Pennsylvania Dutch food, all the food you can eat, okay? All the beer you can drink. I sell a couple of tickets to these 2 guys. They love beer. That's all they come for. So 2 beers, they make their money back. They go out with about 20 beers to get an Uber. And I'm your DJ, so we'll play music. But sign up with them because some of you do come. How many of you attend the meat raffle? So we always have a good time. We got our own tables, we put music on, and we dance. All right? All right, so we're floating the idea of printing because I have been told by the ladies in the back that you want some kind of shirts. We're not going to be in the merchandise business anymore. If we're going to do anything like a shirt, which you see there is the Freedom shirt on the sleeve there is our new logo, the Lehigh Valley MAGA logo. It's a little bit better quality shirt, meaning it's a little softer. So basically, we would be selling those for $25. Would any of you be interested? Just raise your hands. All right, because we're going to pre-order that. So if you are interested, see Emily in the back. We'll take your names and all that. It would be simple. We do have a group that is going to help us in the transition. They're thinking of doing another shirt. This will be simple because this is what I see out there. The Charlie Kirk shirt, simple freedom, and on the sleeve will be just LV Magna. So if you're interested to see Emily in the back, she'll take your name and number. All right? Real quick, I was trained after the election, and some of you might have heard this, but what happened, I was in line behind a priest from one of my old parishes, and there was a politician in line. So the usher said, all right, you three guys follow us into heaven, we'll show you your rooms. So the first gentleman was, of course, the priest, and followed by the politician and myself. So they said, Father, here's your room. It was a simple room. It was about 10 by 10, a bed, a chair, and a desk. And I said, oh my God, that's all this priest is going to get? So we're walking down, and then all of a sudden, we get to the politicians, and he says, okay, this is your room, and this is your gentleman that's going to help make sure your linen's changed every day. We walk in there, it's a huge room. There's a refrigerator in there, a huge color TV, and again, he has a gentleman, a butler for his room. And then they said, okay, now we'll take you, Mr. Andrew. So I said, wait a minute, I want to know, why did the priest get this little room and this politician get this big room? And he said, very simple, we have a lot of priests, ministers, and rabbis come in, so no big deal. But he said, this is the first politician that's ever made it into heaven. Wow. First-time attendees. Are there any first-time attendees here tonight? Could you stand up? I see one of my brother knights here, Jim. Charles! Charles in the house here from the Northampton County Republican Committee. Where's that guy, student? There we go. All right, good. Thank you for being, and we have a young lady here. Look at that. Are you in school? What, high school, college, older than that? What is it? 24. Oh, outstanding. Thank you for being
part of a political committee.
Oh, she's a political committee. She should be, well, she might get one of those new rooms up there. All right. Also, before I forget, Charles, could you stand up in Bangor High School? I was going to put the flyer, if you go to Northampton County Republican Committee, they're having this weekend, Bangor High School, they're going to have a nice celebration with some singers.
Yes, a Veterans Day celebration with some traditional American singing, and I encourage everyone, if they can go, it would be a great event.
Great, so you can check out Northampton County Republican Committee. Rogers from our office is there. If you don't know how to get to the thing, where's Roger at? Thank you, Roger, for everything you do. And we'll give you the name of the website, okay? All right, and let's see here. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, as many of you know, Bill Klockenberg is now the president, I believe, of the NRA. Yes, so he was one of our board members, and unfortunately, due to a conflict of interest, he had to step down and resign. So, Ben, are you here in the room? Oh, Ben, could you come on up over here for a second? So, my dear Emily in the back is learning how to be a politician. She goes, are you going to, every time we go to an event, she says, are you going to work the room? And what she means is, I work the room trying to introduce myself to people, thank them for being here. So at the chairman's dinner, Ben was a generous donor, so we had to move some people around. I put him and his wife at our table, and she nudged me, she says, he's one of your upcoming coffee sponsors. He's also a Tea Party member. I missed that. So anyway, I got to be a little bit better acquainted with Ben, and he's going to be one of our speakers tonight. So I would like to officially nominate him to be a replacement to the board. Our other board members, if our board members could stand up there. This is our current board. There are here, and we had the opportunity to get better acquainted with them, and everyone was unanimous. So I'm just looking for someone to motion.
I motion.
And who was that? That was Al Smith. Second. And Dave, so Jackie, could you write down Al Smith, and the second was from?
Dave Boulan.
Dave Boulan, so Al Smith and Dave Boulan. and out, we're going to just give Ben a minute to just tell you a little bit about himself, and then we'll have a discussion.
Great, thank you for your support. I have lived in Williams Township in Easton, been there since 2014 with my wife. I have a small business. I do virtual bookkeeping. I have 6 women that work for me all over the country. I've only met one in person. And that's the way of the future. You'll hear me speak later. I'm also the past chair of the Small Business Council for the Chamber for several years. And I do, in my bookkeeping practice, it brings me to a lot of businesses, local businesses here in the Valley, nonprofits that we help turn around, and some small businesses. We help them grow and become more financially stable. So when I met, and I've known Bill Backenberg, I shoot sporting plays every year at the Quarry Freeze for years. My shooting partner, we've been doing this for years. So it was a real treat that, not that Bill was leaving, but that I got to fill his shoes. So thank you everybody for your support.
Any discussion on this nomination? See no nomination, all in favor of Ben White III filling that open spot, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The only mistake he made, including Scott James, who's going to be our other speaker, their wives are here, and Scott made a fatal mistake this morning not saying his best asset is his pretty wife. So, yes?
This gentleman, he had something to say.
Sure, go ahead, sir.
Oh, it's already taken it back.
Okay, no problem. All right. Thank you very much, Ben White. Welcome to the Lehigh Valley MAGA Board. All right. 50-50 raffle, Mo in the back. We have to try to finish on time. Mo's going honey tomorrow. The tickets are in the back with Tom Jory. All right, and they have a special back there. Okay, also Melissa in the back, smiling, standing up. She has we call it the 100 ticket raffle. After we sell 100 tickets, they're $10 each. We draw those tickets. You win either an opportunity to go spend your money at Relic Hunter, Lehigh Valley Sporting Clays, or AF Boyers. So we started a new round tonight, so please consider buying one of those tickets. All right, also if you do not have cash, you can go see Juan or Jackie in the back, and we have a credit card machine, and then for $10, you get a chip worth $10, and you can use them to buy anything in the room. All right, also, as many of you know, I take my scouts to West Point each and every year. Our biggest expense is transportation. I rent a van, and I have to pay for the gas and the tolls. So how do I pay for that? We sell in the back brownies, crumb cakes, and cannolis. So please consider helping out my scouts, and we also take donations back there. All right. All right, also, U.S. Law Shield is our ongoing sponsor, and we had a meeting about 2 weeks ago at Pizza Chef, and so U.S. Law Shield, if God forbid you ever have to use your handgun, your shotgun, or if you have to use your fist in a fight, unfortunately, even if you think you're doing the right thing, you will end up most likely in legal trouble. Therefore, you want an attorney ready to go. If you call us U.S. Law Shield and you're a member, they will be there within a very short time to see you through your legal proceedings from start to finish. It's for under $200. You can't go wrong. Anyone that's ever hired an attorney and you have to scramble, it's about finding the right attorney, and your initial payment to that attorney is more than $200. All right, next up is our friend Valerie Ferguson. Look, she's wearing one of those freedom shirts, so our show will look similar to that. And on the sign, you see the American flag. We would just replace with our LV MAGA. So, Valerie, take the floor.
Well, good to see everybody. And yes, we're all disappointed, but God has a plan. We just don't know what it is. Anyway, so happy November. Most of you know what I do, and I just entered the 17th year of doing free care packages to our military. But those of you who don't know, that's what I do. A lot of things have changed over the 16 years. The way Andrew supports the Boy Scouts, I've run into a lot of Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts, and we have a storage unit where we pack. When we first started, it was in our house, and then one day my daughter said she'd come home from school, and she says, there's no room for me in the house anymore. But Hellatown Sportsman Association, Gun Club, pays for my storage unit. I think this year they had so many expenses they might not be able to, so God will provide, because something will happen if he wants to keep me doing this. But anyway, Andrew's Boy Scouts have come to this unit and helped pack and done some things, and so have some Girl Scouts. Well, last night I had the funny thing happen. I was invited to a card writing event at the Palmer Library. It was very poorly attended at first, and they were going to write cards, military, and anybody that wants to do that, I have cards in the back. You can just write a little note how much you appreciate them, because that's important. And anyway, so ironically, all of a sudden about 7 or 8 older girls come in. And I was speaking at the time, and the director was speaking also, and it was just something about these girls that just hit me. And then I said, was anybody ever here in the past? And the girls whipped out their phones and showed me pictures from 2019 of them packing for our troops. And they said it was so memorable. So it was really cool because now I've seen them as grown people. And it's so nice to know that you people who helped me are helping make a difference. And I know there's a lot of veterans here. You want to raise your hands? Well, I want to tell you about a couple of things. Everybody's talking about Bill Bockenberg and Lehigh Valley Sporting Clays. I unfortunately know a lot of Gold Star parents. Gold Star parents is someone who lost a child in the service. Blue Star is one that has a child in the service. Well, I know Nancy Smith, who is very involved in Mission Barbecue. So you guys, on November 11th, you go to Mission Barbecue, you get all you want to eat. But she is also doing a fundraiser for her son at Lehigh Valley Sporting Clays, and it's going to raise money for Camp Freedom, which is Bill Bockenberg. So I have these flyers back there. The last one talking about our different colleges. DeSales University does the best Veterans Day event. And I imagine most of you have been, that served, that raised your hands, served during the Vietnam era. Maybe not in Vietnam, and they especially honor you that day if you attend. It's just wonderful. So it's November 11th, 11 o'clock at DeSales, and they have the best free lunch. It's delicious. So I have all that stuff. Come see me, and I thank you very much for your support. 2 other differences in the last 17 years that I wanted to share was I don't get those wonderful letters that I used to read and end all the time. They're few and far between. And also when we started, our postage each box was $9.75, and as of today it's $31.15. And I have been known to send, over the years, as many as 300 boxes a year. So that's my story. Thank you very much. God bless all of you. God bless America, and keep Trump going.
Johnny was kind enough, so when we go to West Point, we get what is called a sponsor cadet. One of those sponsor cadets now, I believe, is in his 3rd year. He's a tank commander. He was on the Polish borderline, and then now he's back in Texas. Valerie sent him a nice care package to his group of soldiers underneath them. So thank you, Valerie. Again, whatever you can do to support her, please do. All right. All right, donations. The buckets in the middle there is not for garbage. It's hopefully for you to be able to put some cash in there to help our operating expenses. To keep this organization running, we have expenses, the rental of the hall, the coffee, which we are somewhat helped by our coffee sponsor, but then we also have things like our communications, our robocall, our text. How many of you listen to the robocall, the text blast? All that technology does cost us money, so there's operating expenses. So please be as generous as possible. All right. Yes, go ahead.
Could you, I just was kind of jumping back a bit, give the board rationale for raising dues from $25 to $60?
So the
And
yeah.
daily credit cards?
All right, so the rationale was that is the way things are done nowadays. A lot of people don't even accept cash. I heard today about the penny not being produced anymore. So we figured that, in other words, if we are able to attract newer people, that's how the young people do. They do everything with swipe. I mean, I just went to that thing called Wallet on my iPhone that I don't even take up the credit card and I just tap my phone. And the charge goes there, so it's a way of attracting some additional revenue. I will tell you that obviously there is a lot of folks within our organization that do believe we're doing a good job, otherwise they would not be renewing for 3 to 5 years. So a lot of members have renewed 3 to 5 years. I did hear some of the elderly say, okay, I'm going to pay for 25 because I do not know if I'll be around the following year. Now, we do have Charlie Knight here in the room that did make a public statement, and I made sure to have that video that he's going to leave us in as well. Where is Charlie? I saw him here. He just walked out the door. There's Charlie. So the rationale, again, was a decision to make people pay on a monthly subscription basis to generate some additional revenue, and also to encourage people who wait 1 month, 2 months to pay right now. So, any other questions or comments? Will it work? Don't know, but we have to try. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we are fortunate to have here Scott Janney, who is also a Northampton County person, and I'm going to ask Scott to come on up over here. I'm going to see if we can get some fun.
And I was really worried because I thought Valerie would have stolen my papers. There we are. Well, I want to thank Andrew and the board for giving me the opportunity to speak tonight, and also Andrew for giving me the opportunity to speak with Gunther this morning.
Did anyone hear about Bobby Gunther?
Okay. Well, you know the punchline then, right? Okay. So I'm Scott Janney. I'm running for Senate in Pennsylvania, District 18. And I wanted to take a minute to introduce myself, take a few stories and a few important issues to me as they relate to the stories. So, first of all, there's this, my history in pictures. The picture's worth 1,000 words, so if I would speak these instead of showing the pictures, it'd be 7,000 words. So in the top right, there should be the top right, there we go. At the top right, that is one of my ancestors. She was born here and I would say in this county, because when she was born here, this was Bucks County, so she was one of the first 3 Quakers born in Bucks County, 2 years before William Penn arrived in Pennsylvania. Then across the top, you have a couple churches. People in my family, the one on the far right is the first Quaker meeting in Bucks County given by Rebecca Biles' father. And another is a church in Virginia that one of my ancestors who enlisted in the Continental Army 4 times, and he got the land for being a soldier, gave some of the land to form that church in Virginia. In the middle, there's a name. That's how you spell my name, Janney. It's a brokerage house. Anybody ever heard of Jan Montgomery Scott? Okay, see, I'm doing fundraising, so I'm remembering those names. Amos Janney didn't own land. Amos Janney bought something much smaller. He bought a seat. It was the second seat on the New York Stock Exchange. So I don't have his money, and that's not my logo, but that's my name. Across the bottom, this picture is very important to me. This is Peter Kitzline, my wife's ancestor. And the picture is done by the Pennsylvania Sheriff's Association. And it looks like he's the center, but the real attention is to this man here, Jacob Ogden, who is the first law officer in Pennsylvania to die in the line of duty in 1771. And that's the scene right before he died. I married into that family in 1983, and so there's my wife and me at Easton. I portray Peter Kitzline in the parade, which is July 8th every year, the Sunday closest to it, because the Declaration of Independence was read for the first time publicly in Philadelphia, Trenton, and Easton on July 8th, 1776. The other one is my son and I, and does anybody recognize the guy on the right? Okay, Larry Holmes. The first time I did this, which was 2013, my son's a little bigger now. My beautiful wife and son stand up for a second. Just So Rebecca and I, because of the great country we have and successive waves of immigration, we are each a 9th or 10th generation American from some of our ancestors and a 2nd generation American from others of our ancestors. So we are that melting pot that is America. I wanted to tell you a little bit about me and what I do. So it's a word, when I say it, you're going to think of something different than what I do. I'm a fundraiser. I don't go and ask people for $5, $10. I don't make really quick asks. I teach fundraisers around the country how to do it. And one of the things that Fundraisers Surprise I do, and it's a sales technique, if there are any salespeople here, what I do is delay the ask. So we let people think. We say what's really important to you, what do you love, what do you hate. I'm the director, well, I'll get to what I am now. I started fundraising, and I'm a minister. I started fundraising as the Chief Development Officer of a seminary in Hatfield, Pennsylvania. And I started on May 21st, 1995. Why is that date important? I accepted the job and had about 3 weeks' notice, and I was going to get there in 3 weeks. On May 15th, 1995, the Wall Street Journal exposed a financial scandal. It's called the New Era in Philanthropy Scandal. It involved Harvard, Stanford, Yale, Princeton, the Philadelphia Orchestra, the Nature Conservancy, and a whole lot of charities, including the one that I was about to join as their Chief Development Officer. All the lead staff took a pay cut when that happened, including me, who hadn't got my first paycheck yet. But I was told by the Chief Financial Officer that in order to survive, the most they'd ever raised was $760,000 a year. In order to survive, we had to raise at least $1 million that year. That's a 33% increase. Fundraisers write letters. You ever got a fundraising letter? Everybody has, right? You know what they look like? They have pictures and white space. There's a fancy envelope. There's a card to write your pledge on and send your check in. And there's always an envelope. That letter had none of those things. It was a 4-page, single-space, 12-point font letter explaining why the seminary made that big mistake. It had 2 elements that I negotiated very hard with. And see, I wasn't the person that made the decision. I wasn't the CEO. I worked among other people. And 2 things I pushed for that the president signed and the chief financial officer agreed we could do. Number 1, he said, I take full responsibility. And then one time they mentioned people's gifts. What they said about the gifts is, if you feel that you gave us this gift because we deceived you, we'll give it back. That was the best fundraising letter they ever had, the best fundraising. There was a man at the University of Ohio. He said to the president, the board chair, said to the president, I've never seen anybody apologize for it. The president said, I just letter from this little seminary in Pennsylvania, Eastern Pennsylvania. The board chair of that college who never heard of us wrote us a $10,000 check because somebody took responsibility. 5 years ago, I started the Salvation Army. And I need to say this. We should be about 2 slides ahead of you. Wait, the heads are not that slide. Back up one.
I'm going to send you a fundraising about
I also portrayed Colonel Pitchline on 6 of my wife's 27 books. So this is the Easton series. And I actually talked to somebody from Maine once. I was calling him. He looked up my wife's ancestor on the internet and said, Scott, you look exactly like your wife's ancestor. How'd that happen? I said, that's me. You're that picture of Cam in 1770. Anyway. That fundraisers aren't known to be the smartest people. But anyway, so 5 years ago I started the Salvation Army.
Right.
Next slide now. One more, Jim. Just there it goes. No, you took out the one. It's supposed to say the views of the candidate are not necessarily the views of the Salvation Army. So I'm not, it's like they might not agree with everything I say. That's not the point. I'm not endorsed by the Salvation Army. 5 years ago, I started with a group of really, really good people. I had a black background and a white background, switched them. They have, however, some of them have been in their position since the 1990s, 16 frontline fundraisers. I supervised 28 people. Only 2 were direct report. The other are more like an advisor to. They had missed their goal 4 years in a row. Had not made goal for the past 4 years. I looked around and I studied. I like to study what's going on. I spend a lot of time figuring stuff out, trying to get people to work together better. And anyway, I made a lot of changes, but 2 changes I made. First of all, they weren't aware of where they were in their goals. Every month they were reminded of their goals. And second of all, nobody knew how their individual goal, if they were Western Pennsylvania is one of our divisions, Eastern Pennsylvania and Delaware is another. There are 10 divisions where I have fundraisers. They didn't know how their goal contributed to the whole. So, every month I put a chart up. We had a monthly meeting, which is a new thing for them. And that chart had blocks, and it said each division, how much you raise, what your goal is, what percentage you are, and what percentage we'd expect by half a year to 50%. And if you were at or above goal, your block was green. And if you were, thank you. So anyway, another thing, there were certain kinds of gifts. They only raised 74 of them. In the year I came for 38 million, I said they're raising long gifts. This year, they raised 124 of them for 88 million. So we had a goal the first year, this is my 5th, just finished. We this year are at 204% of our 2021 goal. So we've more than doubled in 5 years, my department. What does this have to do with politics? Well, have you ever found out that politicians can have a very narrow set of options, what they can do? It's like we got to raise taxes or cut services. So what do we do in Pennsylvania? We raise the earned income tax on young people, or we earn property tax, which hurts the older people. Why not think that we are here with the greatest resource of natural gas in the world? Why not tax that instead of people? Why not exploit our natural resources instead of exploiting our people? I'm new to running for political office. In 2022, I was elected for the first time with 11 write-in votes. In 2024, and unfortunately you can't read them, keep this up, Andrew. In 2024, PBS came in September to the Lehigh Valley. And Lisa Desjardins interviewed us, and that's an event that we had in Wilson that she had on the PBS NewsHour. Some things she said. because I can't read it from there. She said that of all the counties in the country, 3,000 counties in the country, just 25 of them picked the winner in the last 4 elections. Of the tiny amount in swing states, Northampton County was the closest. And she went around the county and she showed Democrats and Republicans. She said, in Northampton County, who wins here comes down to one thing: who works the hardest. I wish that were true. But so many people don't have confidence that the hardest work, the most people get in the polls, really wins. We need to have election integrity. And in Northampton County, you know, the polls, the machines messed up the ballots every single vote in 2023. We have voter rolls. There are 5 voters registered at our house. Who lives in our house? My son, my wife, and me. The 2 people we bought from the house are still registered. Across the street, there are 4 people registered. Only 2 people live there. The 2 people they bought are still registered. We need to do something about that. The state has a role in doing that. And one more story. This is a foundational one for me. It's from one of the toughest times of my life. But also the most impactful summer of my life, which you might be surprised was the summer between 3rd and 4th grade. In 3rd grade, I was doing good in history, I was doing really good in math, I got D's in reading, I got F's in writing. I couldn't read. When you do the book, the dog and the cat, I knew what the words were because that's where they fit. I could not read at all as a 3rd grader. I spent that summer in a dark room, sitting in front of a screen, and up in the corner would be a T, the light would come on, and uncover a T, an H, and an E, and then a D, an O, and a G. And I would learn to read across that. Eventually, there was a line of light that went down the page, and when it was moved the next time, if I hadn't read the end, I didn't get it. Trained my eye to go left and right and left and right. It was a great summer, because I learned to read. It changed my whole life. And the thing is, I know, thank you, I know that my teacher cared for every student in the room. I know that the suburban school district where I went had good training, had good scores from everybody. But you know who cared the most about me? You know who knew the most about me? My parents. I think that we need to work to empower parents to take charge of their own children's education. In 2022, Josh Shapiro was elected governor of Pennsylvania, and his platform contained the Pennsylvania Awards for Student Success. It was passed by both Democrats and Republicans. It made it to his desk, and he was 9 items vetoed it. Okay, what about the big, great, one big, beautiful bill? Isn't that a wonderful thing? The one great, big, beautiful bill has a $1,700 per person tax credit to give scholarships to help people in religious and private education. You know what? There's a little twist in that. The governor of your state chooses which charities can qualify for his taxes. So you got it in the big, beautiful bill. Trump gave it to us, but we don't get it if our state doesn't get it. So I'm not going to talk about my plan. I talked about it on Gunther, but I really ask you for your support. And you can go to the last slide. I've got 3 other people here. Oh, I'm skipping all those. Go away last slide.
Hello.
Oh my gosh.
There we go. So one more. This is my logo, and I got my committee here. So I want Charles Baldick and Noor Sharif and Ellen Lees to stand up, give us to the back of the committee. We have a working committee to get this done, and I'd like you to join them and Sharif and Lee, and let's get this done. Thank you.
So I'm just going to give her a little more quick time here, Scott. If you can go back to the mic. Just tell them real quick, let's just flip this over here. So folks, if you can see up there, these are the endorsements that you were hoping to get, or you were very
So I decided, so I do campaigns, I plan, I get stuff done. There are 4 goals that I want to accomplish, and if I can do it by January 31st, I think I've proven to you that I can go, and I can't prove that I'm going to win, but I can do the right work. And I think these are things I'd like you to help me. It's number 3, 10, 30, and 100. So 3 is, we have 4 Democrats that overlap this senatorial district. Oftentimes, you don't even run somebody in those offices. I'm pledging that I will work with Joe Michaud, work with Glenn Dyson, or work with others to get at least 3 of those offices have a candidate running, so we can challenge them. The guy who ran before me didn't have anybody under in some of those spots. It hurts. People don't come out when the party doesn't look like they're serious. The next is 10. And I'm I'm saying I'm going to get 10 of these specific 12 endorsements. And people ask me, what if I'm primary? Well, you know, if I'm primary and somebody gets more of them, they're the better candidate. We should run the best candidate, whether it's me or anybody else. The next one is 30, and I'm asking for 30 petition volunteers. I've seen candidates run themselves ragged, going around getting petition after petition after petition. You don't start a campaign like that and start well. So I'm asking for 30 volunteers to sign a line and say that they're going to get at least 10 signatures each.
I will get you 10 signatures. Is there anyone else in the room that will get 10 signatures? Raise your hand.
All right, thank you, brother. All right, I got it.
All right, so see Scott at the breaks. If we can get you those signatures here, the board approves it.
Thank you. And the last thing is, so 3, 10, 30, 100. 100 is $100,000. When John Verhoeven, and by the way, John isn't here, but John, Gunther was a little hard on John today. Yeah. John only got 41% of the vote. You know how much he got of the vote the time before John ran? 0. John moved it from 0 to 41. I want to move from 41 to 51. Okay? So, but showing up and putting his name in there, I'm going to John. But John ran on $170,000. My likely opponent has $500,000 in the bank right now. So my pledge by January 31st, which is a week before we sign petitions, is to have $100,000. Small and large gifts, either given or committed in writing by January 31st.
And your opponent most likely will be the incumbent, who is, so make sure they know.
Lisa Vascola. Lisa Vascola has $500,000 now. Yeah, that's what I'm running against if she continues to run. Yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's give Scott Janey a round of applause. So hopefully we intervene a break. If you want to help them with those positions, make sure you go to being in the Army. In other words, unfortunately, you lose people, some people retire, so it's always about finding new talent. And I'm blessed to have a new person on our board. So Ben, welcome. The mic is yours.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for being here. Scott, that's a great history that you shared with us. I'm very impressed. And I sat and I go, wait a minute. Our father's families, we owned Danbury, Connecticut, decades ago, centuries ago, and the main street's called White Street. And we had the first hat company in the world. So I love the history. And we're both in Williams Township, so it's even better. One of the things I learned about election, I ran for the first time in my life for office in Williams Township, and I won with 98% of the vote. The key is to run unopposed. So I did win as auditor for the Township of Williams Township. So looking forward to starting that. So what Andrew asked me to do was talk about the business of Lehigh Valley. So I mentioned earlier that I was the chair of the Small Business Council for years. Again, if you're not familiar with the Small Business Council, the mission is to promote small business growth and sustainability in the Lehigh Valley. The vision is to increase the member engagement by providing key business initiatives, stewardships, and outreach programs. So we have we've hosted Many events there. We've raised money for nonprofits. We used to do the event in February, the Black Tie Gala at Wind Creek, and each year we've raised over $30,000 for the nonprofits. So if you're a business owner, you sit there by yourself every day. You've got to deal with all the issues, money, staff, customers, paying your bills, and you don't have anybody to voice and talk and share with. So one of the committees that we put together is called Masterminds. And what it is, it's all entrepreneurs that we meet once a month, and we kind of go through what keeps you awake at night. And we just help each other back and forth. We do have monitors that are professional that will help on different topics, whether it's a marketing issue, it's an IT issue, it's a legal issue. And it's confidential with the small group, but for anybody who's an entrepreneur and doesn't have that voice to bounce ideas off of, it's a great opportunity for someone who needs that support. So, Lehigh Valley, it is the hottest market in the country right now. We have been the 7th fastest growing economy in the last almost 10 years. We're ranked 3rd amongst U.S. mid-sized markets for economic development. We're top market. Our GDP is at almost $56 billion. Lehigh Valley manufacturing share of GDP was 16%, versus the U.S. was only 12%. By industry, our biggest industry is manufacturing, $9 billion. Finance and real estate, $8.7 billion. Education and healthcare, $8.4 billion. Professional business services, $6.9 billion. Now, the other ones cumulatively come up to another $36 billion, just in GDP in the valley here. You're probably familiar with some of the local brands. Mac, Martin Guitar, Olympus, Crayola, Air Products, Big Braun, Lutron, Peeps. So these are our primary manufacturing companies here in the valley that employ quite a bit. We have more than 15,000 employers ranging in size from a few workers to a few thousand workers. The largest employment sectors are healthcare, manufacturing, transportation, and warehousing. Some of the big ones, obviously, we're all aware of: Lehigh Valley Health Network, St. Luke's, Good Shepherd, Victoric, Amazon, and PPL. Historic high employment. We have 341,000 jobs here in Lehigh Valley. We've added manufacturing jobs 3 times the national rate since 2010. So I know just from being on the Small Business Council, we would always see industries coming in, spotting us, and some of the key things that they look for is affordability, healthcare, education, and housing. And we have that here. And one of the keys is our universities. We have so many universities. We're a hotbed for education of our youth. Again, just some of the top employers I mentioned in industry, healthcare. 70,000 Lehigh Valley residents are employed by healthcare. 37,000 in manufacturing, transportation and warehouse, another 37,000. Retail trade, 32,000. Education, 27,000. And all others, 48,000. So our population, again, I'm a new resident. I'm a newbie. I've only been here since 2014. But now we're over 700,000 citizens here in the valley. Now, again, for you people that have been here a long time, their whole life, there's a kind of pro and con to that. 78's gotten really busy, 33 is traffic, but it's still, our growth is outpacing those little incidentals. It's the fastest growing region, particularly among young adults, because of diverse experiences and career opportunities can be found in one place here in the Lehigh Valley. Location, climate, diversity, schools, colleges, and the outdoors. I mean, you could be, downtown Allentown, and in 15 minutes you're up, or 30 minutes you're in Blue Mountain. I mean, you don't do that in New York City or Philadelphia. We also, in Lehigh and Northampton counties, ranked in the top 10% for young adults 18 to 34. And the median household income is higher than the average in the U.S. Right here, it's $82,000 a year. The U.S. average is $76,000. And as a fun little factoid, we are the #1 most attended games of minor league baseball. Thank you very much. And thank you for your support earlier.
Thank you, Ben. Thank you, and welcome to the board. All right, ladies and gentlemen, at this time, before I put up the next slide, again, if you could be as generous as possible, the bucket's on the table, and we will have some of our board members go around and collect your donations. Thank you in advance. I'd also like to thank Cindy O'Brien. Is she here this evening? She is a member of the Lehigh Valley Tea Party, also a member of the Northampton County Republican Committee. She is kind enough tonight to be our coffee sponsor. If anyone would like to be the coffee sponsor, we are ready. Ben actually is our coffee sponsor for next month. His wife and him are our coffee sponsor for December. But we're looking ahead for January, February, March. So if you'd like to be a coffee sponsor, see myself or Juan or Jackie, and we'll make sure you get that covered. It's a $125 investment. So at this time, we're going to take a 10-minute break, and I encourage you to go get a 50-50 ticket, get a 100-gun raffle ticket, take some notes. Standing up here in the front is Judy. Judy's birthday is today. Brian Warren, MD. As he makes his way up, I just want to give you a little background on Brian. Brian Warren is a practicing anesthesiologist, putting patients to sleep and taking care of women in labor for the past 27 years. In a level 1 primary center in Norfolk, Virginia. In 2024, he completed seminary, receiving a Master of Divinity degree from Regent University in Virginia Beach. Dr. Warren is also the author of Truth of the Trade. That's his book up there in the screen. After tonight's meeting, you might chat with him and learn more about his book and hopefully how to pick up one of those books. So again, ladies and gentlemen, if you could give him your undivided attention. And Dr. Warren was on Tuesday with Bobby Gunther. So again, welcome, Dr. Brian Warren.
Andrew, thank you for making this happen. He is simply awesome. On May 7th, 2006, I boarded an airplane with the Admiral of the USS Enterprise Strike Group, bound for the USS Enterprise 250 miles off the coast of Virginia. How does some random doctor from Virginia Beach get to fly out to an aircraft carrier while it was on its first 2 days of deployment, bound for Operation Iraqi Freedom? The arrested carrier landing was violent. Stepping foot on the deck of the world's most dangerous place to work was awe-striking. The coordinated violence of the aircraft carrier's crew was orchestrated to perfection. Warfighters wearing helmets, wearing a multitude of different colored float jackets. It looked like you were inside the Death Star of Star Wars. There was the overwhelming roar of jet engines as superheated jet wash crashed over you every 45 seconds as the carrier launched another jet fighter into the air, causing the whole ship to foam. The feeling was awe-inspiring. The catapult launch, sending me back home, crushed my being. The massive G-force instantly collapsed my lungs and emptied my lungs of air. I left the war fighters behind that day, but the image of those at war remains. These were the fighters that protect life to protect America. So you can imagine the contrast years later. It was also the month of May. The place, Ostium, Poland. My wife and I spent that entire Mother's Day at Auschwitz, standing inside a gas chamber, peering around the corner at the ovens, tears at one's soul. A mountain of hair clippings from the victims in the camp cannot be unseen. 3 days later, we had a 2-day private tour with the retired British commando of Normandy's Omaha and Utah Beach. And while standing at Point de Hoc, which splits the two invasion beaches, my wife was left with a profound question for us today. Yes, Operation Overlord succeeded, but it was a tragedy with far too many men lost. Why did this happen? Her response is the answer for us today. Yes, evil exists, and it is pervasive, and it will exist as long as man walks the earth. But we had better have an overwhelming and supremely lethal military at all times. We must always be ready to defend life because, as the founders knew, others would always be ready to take it. And to that end, our founders set up our republic under the framework of the U.S. Constitution. How did we as a nation get to a place where the Constitution could be possible? July 4th, 1776. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. In the Constitution, the right to life is not explicitly stated as a standalone right, but it is protected through the 5th and the 14th Amendments' due process of law clauses. These clauses prevent the government from depriving any person of life, liberty, or property without fair legal procedures. The 5th Amendment, as written by our founding fathers in 1791, applies to the federal government, and the 14th Amendment, ratified in 1868, applied as extended the same due process clauses to the state and local governments. And importantly, especially for tonight, the 14th Amendment also contains the Equal Protection Clause. I'm certain that all of you here tonight hold dear to the notion that the U.S. Constitution is the origination point for this country. And I feel, as you do, that the Constitution and our country have been eroding. And you all want to make this country great again by returning to the Constitution as originally written. We need a coordinated effort like that seen on the deck of the carrier. And just as the Navy men and women take on the hard stuff, so are we tonight. We are going to take on the difficult issue of abortion. 25% of all U.S. women have had an abortion, and 20% of all men have been a part of one. So let me say at the outset that no matter the sin committed, shame off of you, because there can be forgiveness found within a framework of love. Our founding fathers knew where right and wrong came from. John Adams stated, "Our Constitution was made for a moral and religious people. It is wholly inadequate to the government of any other." Adams did not state that the Constitution set up a Christian government, a theocracy. He stated what all 56 signers of the Declaration of Independence knew full well. The newly formed government was founded upon moral truths, right and wrongs, as set forth by their Creator. Jefferson and Franklin were said to be deists, believers in a Creator God, a higher source of truth. The rest of the 56 signers of the Declaration of Independence were Christians. Some were pastors. When they signed that document on August 7th of 1776, They all knew that King George would issue a death warrant on each of their heads to be strung by the neck until dead. But they did it anyway. Why? To repeat, we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights. And in the sentence just before this, the signers declared that we are entitled to a certain station because of the laws of nature and nature's God. And they were so convinced of this truth that they conclude the document with this. And for the support of this declaration, with a firm reliance on the protection of divine providence, we mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor. They were willing to die for this truth. The U.S. Constitution, forming a limited government by the people, for the people, was drafted by authors who drew from writings of such men as Montesquieu, a French Catholic who was a lawyer and a philosopher, and John Locke, an English Protestant who was a physician and a philosopher. And both of these men's writings drew heavily on the Bible. Friends, we need to have some sort of insight into what our founders thought at the time was good for us 250 years ago, because now we let our culture decide what is good for us, and how's that working out for us? It is our culture that has become the decision makers of who does and does not have the right to life. We ask such questions as, is it convenient? Is it cost effective? Is that life a burden on others? Can those in our culture decide when life begins? Does our culture get to define unalienable rights? The same culture that is departed from a principled way of life? Unalienable rights. Let me remind you of the words chosen by the authors. What does this mean? Unalienable rights means that you receive your rights from God, the origination point for everything, including truth itself. God is the grantor of rights, and our founders knew not only this, but that the government is the guarantor or the protector of your rights. The founders knew, as I know you all do quite well know as well, that if the government is the grantor of your rights, the government can take them away. Your First Amendment, Second Amendment, 14th Amendment. Think of those people that were just elected to that Pennsylvania Supreme Court. You need to do something. This is the very backbone of what you all, as part of the MAGA movement, know quite well. It is the person with God-given rights, created in God's image. Each of you have inherent value, unmatchable value. Value that is said to be equal among all persons. Our culture, by some sort of majority rule, has become the determinant of when a person is a human, destroying unalienable rights. And this has resulted in over 1 million babies being aborted every year in this country. That is 60 million since Roe, or 10 Holocaust. Worldwide, since Roe, it is 3 billion abortions. Those in our culture have used arguments such as the right to choose, it is my body, reproductive rights, reproductive health care, and to save the life of a mother. Well, let's look at this from a different perspective. And let's begin with, what is life? First, I want to define life by using a widely accepted definition of what it is to be alive. Something is alive when it metabolizes, grows, responds, moves, has complex functional structures, thanks to genetics, produces offspring that are different than its parents, and lastly, it dies. And when does life begin? A lawyer PhD just recently polled 5,000 biologists from 1,000 universities from around the world. The response, 96% said at conception. The sperm enters the egg. A single cell of conception with a unique genetic code is created at fertilization 2 weeks before a mother would have had a period. Everything in a tiny individual that needs is contained contained in that one cell. And this cell undergoes explosive cell division with coordinated growth. And by 3 weeks, 1 week after a missed period, the heart beats. At 3 weeks, at 4 weeks, neurons are set in place from the developing eyes to the back of the brain where vision takes place. And these neurons are located in their position at 4 weeks for the rest of that person's life, allowing us to see. Neurons at 4 weeks connect to the developing ears. And speaking of the ears, at 7 weeks, hair cells are formed in the cochlea that begin to detect sound. And these hair cells transmit the sound to the brain. That's right. The tiny baby or embryo can hear sounds from his or her mother at 7 weeks. You want more incredible? At 2 weeks, when a mother may have no idea that she's pregnant, single-stranded DNA cells are in the groin region of the developing child. Every other cell in that tiny baby's body has double-stranded DNA cells. So what are these single-stranded cells? Primordial germ cells, which give rise to sperm and eggs. That's correct. When a mother may not even know she's pregnant, cells are inside of her at 2 weeks that will form that mother's grandchild. The son or daughter in her has cells in place which will give rise to that mother's son or daughter's children, her grandchildren, at 2 weeks. Whose reproductive rights are we talking about? The mother, the daughter inside of her, or the future granddaughter? And lastly, at 8 weeks, arms and legs, fingers and toes, they're all formed at 8 weeks. At 8 weeks, we look exactly like tiny little people, except we have big heads. But guess what? The babies that I see up in labor and delivery all the time, they too have disproportionately large heads. Some say I do as well. The take-home at one cell, everything we need is present in that uniquely made cell. Now our culture says, yes, it is a life, it's a human even, but it's not a person. So our culture, in its zeal to be the determiner of matters of life and death, gripped a hold of this issue of personhood. And for that, they had to look no further than the United States Supreme Court. Justice Blackmun, the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court in 1973, rendered an opinion that transformed the U.S. legal system. In short, in cases leading up to Roe v. Wade, the application of unalienable rights from the Declaration of Independence were chipped away at and defeated by the concept that the legal order does not correspond to the natural God-ordained order, and that the fetus is alive and a human, but not a person. Justice Blackmun rendered an opinion that the unborn are potential life and the object of a theory of life, but are non-persons. What this means is that in spite of our nation being founded upon nature's God, the God of the Bible, our God-given rights, in that moment, was broken at its core as a baby became not a person. The state, which once protected human rights, became the determiner of personhood, rendering the class of humans susceptible to death. By this ruling, a massive group of second-class citizens was created. And this continues to this day with more than 1 million U.S. citizens losing their right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness while still in the womb. What about their rights? Yet many remain unconvinced. So let's address this. And while doing so, I will make the case that the fixing of this fundamental problem of abortion can lead to a greater freedom from the King George-like state that has grown like a cancer in our great nation. Yes, attacking this issue head-on much like the Boston Tea Party did almost 250 years ago. At what point is a life worth protecting? When our culture says that it is, how about we just use logic? Surely our founding fathers relied upon logic, so let's consider unalienable rights from the perspective of logic and reason. Please reflect on the science that we've covered so far. Couple it with the acronym SLED, S-L-E-D, size, level of development, environment, and degree of dependency. Size. Yes, an embryo is smaller than an infant, but is a 4-year-old grandson worth less than an Eagles lineman because the O-lineman is bigger? Next, level of development. Indeed, embryos are less developed than a toddler, but a toddler is less developed than an adult. Can anyone justify killing the toddler? Next is environment, which means attaching value based on one's location. Whether or not one is implanted on the uterine wall, or halfway down the birth canal, or running around on the playground changes nothing with regards to value. And last, degree of dependency. What if an individual is dependent on another for life and sustenance? Does it matter if the dependency is via an umbilical cord rather than if your spouse is in the intensive care unit on a heart-lung machine? Does dependency on another affect your unalienable rights? Confused? I understand. I too was deceived. Spring 1992. I was a third-year medical student at the Medical College of Virginia, rotating on the obstetric service, and I delivered a ton of babies, and I loved it. The tiny child just folds into your arms, and there's that first cry. But then there came a night on call. The tiny 16-week-old baby was delivered prematurely as the mom's labor could not be stopped. For some reason, very soon after, I returned to what I thought was an empty delivery room, only to be left in shock. I entered the dark, cold room. And in the far corner, I saw a small stainless steel surgical table, and I'm drawn to it. But what do I see? Not the size of my outstretched hand, a tiny, naked baby, and the tiny arms and legs were moving. And I watched as the arms moved slower and slower and slower, and then we stopped. Unsure of what to do, I turned and I left the room. And charging up the hallway, this overwhelming thought roars through my mind. Before and outside of medical schools, no one tells you it's a baby. It's a clump of cells. And in medical school, it's just not made plain. But there before me was not a clump. It was a baby, the same size as the ones that get aborted every day. I was, in that moment, certain that I had been deceived about abortion. And in medical schools now, let me tell you about medicine and what happens in hospitals and clinics as we tackle this right-to-life issue and unalienable rights. First, there's a change in language. We always see a change in language when someone wants to change the rules. My son-in-law is in his last year of medical school back down in Virginia. And during his second year of med school, a GYN professor used the term parasite to refer to the child in the womb. Parasite. When my wife and I were in a barrack in Auschwitz, a video was playing of Hitler speaking to a massive crowd. He referred to the Jews as parasites. And the camera in that video pans to the the crowd, and they're going wild, it's crazy, it's raucous. And the camera zeroes in on this one woman. Her cheerful, huge, smiling face took up the whole screen. Then there's the rush to get the procedure over and done with. A few years ago, while sitting at work in the hospital in front of a computer, I looked up my next patient. She was admitted to the hospital with a diagnosis of optic nerve swelling, those same nerves that I told you about earlier. This prescribed treatment was high dose of IV steroids so she would not lose her eyesight. And wouldn't you know it, she was pregnant. The obstetricians were called for consults. And they offered her an abortion. Reading the chart revealed that she had initially refused the abortion, but repeat visits by the OB service resulted in her finally consenting to the abortion. As charted, these doctors told her that the IV steroid treatment could result in birth defects. And while reading the notes, as I knew I would pass this patient off to a willing partner, an awful feeling just caused me to sink in my chair. My mind raced, what can I do? And I take a quick search of the literature and it confirmed which I had pulled from the recesses of my mind. Steroids do not cause birth defects. A few clicks of the keyboard, the expected pops up a research study. In the first term, high-dose steroids may raise the rate of a cleft lip from 1 in 1,000 to 1 in 250, meaning that an easily repaired lip was 4 times more likely. And what does OB want to know from the patient? Can we abort your baby? My heart sunk as I passed the case off to another anesthesiologist. A short while later, the mother presents to the operating room area, and I see her in the prep area with the OB doctors huddled around her. Then off she goes to the operating room, taken by the RN and the anesthesia team. And I passed by this OR many times, caring for other patients on this one hallway. And with that operating room door closed and me walking by the outside, I had this overwhelming sense that I had been there before. Yes, Mother's Day, in Auschwitz, in the gas chamber. And remember the aircraft carrier and the violence of the world's most dangerous place to work, orchestrated to perfection? In that operating room, the world's most dangerous place to be a baby, the procedure orchestrated to perfection. The feeling of helplessness was immeasurable. Why rush? Abortion was not a treatment for eye damage. And in fact, literature shows that it can make the eye damage worse in that circumstance. And lastly, how about abortion to save the life of a mother? In 30 years of working as an anesthesiologist in the biggest and busiest hospitals in Virginia, I have never seen nor ever heard of the need for an abortion to save the life of a mother. Not one time. And neither have a handful of OBGYN doctors I've spoken to. And this would be for babies younger than 24 weeks. And after 24 weeks, an emergency section is always the potential cure. The notion of to save the life of a mother is a wedge issue, using a false flag to open a crack in an argument. And for the mother's mental health, women who have had an abortion versus those who have had their children, there's a 270% increased risk of suicide attempts. Abortion hurts women and babies. And one last note on this. There are 2 surgical procedures for abortion, and then there's the abortion pill. And for more on these, read the book. But with regards to the pill, the use has exploded since the pandemic and was at 66% for abortions last year. No doctor is required. It arrives in the mail across state lines if necessary. Untraceable. And I care for many of these post-abortive women when they come in for emergency surgery at all hours of the night with bleeding and infection complications. As George Washington stated, truth will ultimately prevail where there is pains to bring it to light. The founders did not have science and embryology to help them make decisions on life and death. What they did have was truth. You've all heard someone say, I have my truth. But if each has their own truth, 350 million truths in this country means no truth. The Enlightenment and postmodernism have destroyed truth. We now have truth in synthesis, where people just create truth for themselves, not the founders. For them, and for all of them, for everyone back to Aristotle, truth was an antithesis. A equals A does not equal B. Hence, we have a collapse in unalienable rights. What else did the founders rely on? The Bible, as the founders well knew, prescribed truth and morals. There can only be one set of morals. Otherwise, who determines which morals are correct? If I say it is moral to kill you, how can you argue? You have to base it on something. And the founders did. You're only getting 2 Bible verses for me tonight. Listen to the words of David from Psalm 139, 13 through 16. For you formed my inward parts. You knitted me together in my mother's womb. I praise you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Wonderful are your works. My soul knows it very well. My frame was not hidden from you when I was being made in secret, intricately woven in the depths of the earth. Your eyes saw my unformed substance. In your book were written, every one of them, the days that were formed for me, when as yet there were none of them. Intricately woven? Could David have imagined 3,000 years ago what biologists would discover just in the last 30 years? This truth is repeated over and over again in Jeremiah 1:5, Job 31:15, Isaiah 44:2, and Galatians 1:15. All of these passages were understood by the founders to mean that the child in the womb had created by God, had life, and was known personally by God. The following is what the founders understood very well, and it is the foundation for life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness as being unalienable rights. Genesis chapter 1, verse 27. So God created man in his image. In the image of God he created him. Male and female he created them. God made man in his image. We bear his image. And though we are not divine and he is, we are a copy of God and therefore worthy of protection. The murder of one of his image bearers is punishable by death after due process from the 5th and 14th Amendment. That is equal protection. Murder is sin. Exodus 20:13. Make no mistake. God hates child sacrifice, as seen in Amos 1:13 and in multiple other passages throughout the Old Testament. And abortion in the New Testament, all of the signers of the Declaration would have been quite familiar with the Gospel of Luke. Luke was a first-century physician, and he writes a confirmed narrative of Jesus. The bottom line is for Jesus to be the perfect atoning sacrifice for sin, even the sin of abortion. He had to be fully God and fully man at the same time. And this occurred at the incarnation, which occurred at the formation of the embryo as God took on flesh. And when did this occur? At one cell, by definition. And we see proof of this in Luke chapter 1. So to abort a baby at one cell is to abort God at one cell. And the rejection of this truth is to abort oneself. And if you want to fully understand this, get a hold of my book. But the bottom line is this. At one cell, we are actually a human, not a potential person, but a person with great potential. If you consider yourself to be a Christian, and you miss this point as you in your own mind allow for abortion at any point, you are rejecting the very foundation of the gospel itself. Make America great again. How? Make America grow again. Stop killing babies and devaluing the family and strengthen families with the notion that strong families will make this country great again. People are our greatest resource. All are created equal. We are one nation, under God, indivisible, and we want to be stronger than ever. How? Stop murder and the human sacrifice of the leftists and turn this country back to the principles of our founding fathers. Let's press forward with the goal of true liberty and pursuing happiness by protecting life for all of God's people. The men who invaded Normandy were our protectors. What this nation needs is the equal protection by the 14th Amendment. Let us internalize the fact that a parent cannot trade the life of their child so that they can have the perception of a better life. Only God can trade a life for a life, and He did 2,000 years ago, His Son's life for your eternal life. There is forgiveness after repentance, no matter what we've done. My wife and I had front row seats as invited guests at the Charlie Kirk Memorial. Listen to these words, shared that day by our Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth. We always knew we needed less government, but what Charlie knew is that we need more God. How can we expect divine providence to rain blessing upon our nation if we tolerate the obliteration of 1 million babies a year? Return to the question that I asked at the beginning, posed by my wife. Evil exists. Will we do what is necessary to protect what we love and the most innocent? Utter helplessness demands utter protection. The Second Amendment allows us to protect ourselves from a tyrannical government. For this fight, we need to change the laws. What about using our voice and voting life and to speak life and to fight for life at one cell? In the words of J.D. Vance at the Charlie Kirk Memorial, it is better to face a gunman than to live your life afraid to speak the truth. It is better to be persecuted for your faith than to deny the kingship of Christ. It is better to die a young man in this world than to sell your soul for an easy life with no purpose, no risk, no love, and no truth. That, my friends, is how we make America great again. Thank you so much, everybody.
We spoke on world cook. And we heard people say that it was the right to kill Charlie, right? You heard that? So here's a quote from Mother Teresa. And if we can accept that a mother can kill her own child, how can we tell other people not to kill one another?
Exactly.
Thank you very much, Dr. Warren. God bless you. All right, folks, a couple of quick announcements. Are you guys a question? Go ahead. We don't have to. All right, is it for Dr. Warren?
Yes.
All right, hold on 1 second. We're going to try to talk one. Dr. Warren, if you could take the stage real quick, we're going to try to take 1 or 2 questions here. And also tell us how your book is available. Would it be on Amazon? Amazon. Yeah. We'll let these two gentlemen two quick questions. Go ahead.
Yes, the book's on Amazon, paperback, and Kindle.
I don't have a question for you, but I want to commend you and maybe make you this. And I do have something to add to this. Like I said, the scriptures were created on the Proverbs stage. Marriage has a purpose. The purpose is to bring to life bodies so that the spirit children in heaven can come down here and experience the life that they need to have to progress into the life hereafter. This is not just an accident. This is something that's been created with purpose. Abortion has no place in the equation for this. So we have, how many spirits have been denied the opportunity to come here, grow, and to progress in the eternal life that precedes us? Many have made these choices. A father and a mother are created to raise these children when they're brought to life. And to have denied that opportunity, we'll have to answer for that ourselves as individuals. If you deny, if you don't think what I'm saying is true, I ask you to sit, go home tonight and pray about it. I know the answer you're going to get.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, the gentleman in blue, if you could please present your question.
I'd like you to comment on a couple things. I know one of I really enjoyed your speech. Could you please comment on the founder of Planned Parenthood, Margaret Sanger, her concept of eugenics, and the impact on the Afro-American black population in America?
Absolutely. There's a fellow I got to meet at the Charlie Kirk Memorial. His name is Seth Gruber, and he just put out a movie called The 1916 Project, so you might want to look for it. And but Margaret Sanger was a eugenist. She founded Planned Parenthood out of her use in reproductive health and prescriptions for contraceptives that then morphed into providing abortions. And you can read it. It's actually expand upon it in the book. But her goal was to get rid of the black population.
Yeah.
2/3 of all babies that are aborted are black, meaning that they're 4 times more likely to be aborted. That was her goal, and it's why you see Planned Parenthood stationed in the communities and in place of the communities. It's singularly for that purpose, to get rid of what, and you can read her quotes. It's unbelievable. It's easy to see them online. But her goal was to get rid of that race. She hated it. You're absolutely right. Anybody else have a question?
Charles, one more question. We'll take Charles over here.
One more question, Charles.
Dr. Warren, thank you. Fantastic presentation. Just wondering if you could
Yeah.
wondering if you could comment at all on the state of, and it's a big topic, but just briefly, our major medical societies, the AMA and the American Pediatric Association, and how they've been, if they have been politicized, how that could be addressed.
Remember what I said about truth and synthesis, and everybody has their own truth, and truth is destroyed. So that's resulted in with the destruction of truth. Then that's where we get the woke from. That's where you get DEI from. That's where you get all of the endless chaos that you see. And it has infiltrated the AMA, which I'm not a part of, big time. The pediatrics, etc. And you see it in their support for abortion, their support for transgender issues, and all that stuff. They are completely given over to a new-based mind. How to address that? My thesis, if you will, and it kind of spells out in here, that if we can rally around nothing else, right? If we could rally around this, speaking truth to this issue, as I mentioned, and then bring people into the realization of the truth of God, and the truth of God is being the provider of, the source of information, the Bible, and because it points in that direction. So it's really perhaps using this issue to turn people to faith, because only a changed heart will lead to a changed mind. So it's a matter of changing hearts. And so that's why I think it's such a huge political issue. It's not, a church issue or biblical issue, because all biblical issues, all issues of theology are actually all political issues. It's just that the left, if you will, our culture has taken all away from the church. So here's the answer to your question. Is it must be preached only from the pulpit. I don't know how many of you have ever had a pastor speak about abortion. I've preached on it. I had a pretty cool sermon on Luke chapter 1, and it's really in that book. But get a copy of this book and give it to your pastor. Because pastors are ultimately responsible, and I can just go on and on about this, but that's where it has to come from. It has to come from the church. Because from the pulpit, we get the church. From the church, we get culture. And from culture, we get our government downstream. So that's how we change it. Okay.
Well said. I'll tell you, my priest is not afraid to talk about this. Thank you, Dr. Warren. Take a trip back to Virginia. Dr. Warren, make sure you see Buddy over here. All right, ladies and gentlemen, a couple of quick announcements. I want to thank everyone for their patience. So we want to thank Dr. Warren, Dr. Janney, and also our new board member, Ben White. They were all great speakers. Give them a round of applause. Final announcements again, if you are interested in that t-shirt, make sure that you give Emily your name, your mobile number, and your size. We're going to have to figure out a way to charge because we're not going to order the shirts ahead of time. As Valerie just reminded me, make sure you stack all the papers in the center of the table to make it easy for us to try to get out of here as early as possible. Also, we're requesting last-minute donations in the buckets. Last-minute donations in the buckets. Couple more quick things, folks. Stay put. Next month is December. We're going to have Bobby Gunther Walsh come by. Would you like to do the desserts like we usually do? Have some calories? So we'll put an announcement to bring desserts, and we'll put them in the back of the room. Desserts. Okay? I've been on a diet for the last 2 weeks. The only thing I lost was 14 days. So let's have some dessert before Christmas. All right. So we'll do desserts next year. All right. Let's see here. Upcoming meetings again. December will be our next meeting. I believe it's the 4th. It's the first Thursday. First Town Patriots, their meeting is Thursday, November 20th. If you would like to attend, please take a picture of that. Thursday, November 20th. On another note, we have another birthday celebration other than Judy. We also have Sharon Drees. Is Sharon here? Where is she? If she could stand up. It is Sharon's birthday, and she's in red. Happy birthday, Sharon. I think we're going to do like Bobby Gunther, an announcement. All right. Then we have if anyone is a Second Amendment person, we have a Pew Pew Bingo. And that is going to be on November 8th, Saturday, November 8th at 4 p.m. Games start at 6 p.m. So if you're interested, take a picture of that. And then after that, head over to Baker High School to listen to those ladies sing. See Charles, who was our last question person there. All right, let's take a look. Yep. Next month's meeting, yes, I was correct. Thursday, December 4th, and we will collect gifts. And if you'd like to bring a check made out of Easton Children's Home next month, December 4th, their party is scheduled for Saturday, December 20th. I know Emily, Valerie, and I we attended that last year. It's real fun. It's a quick moving thing. So that will be December 20th. Emily and I will not be able to attend, so we're looking for people to go fill in the spot for us there. So again, bring gifts for Bobby Gunther's support of Easton Children's Home. Look for an email from us. 50-50 raffle, we want to thank our students.
Yes, we have Harrison here from Lehigh University. He picked the winning 50-50 raffle ticket. Harrison is a mechanical engineer student at Lehigh. So, all right, check your tickets. 071-343.
Oh, I'm sorry, hit the wrong thing. Repeat.
071-3438.
Oh! Well-deserving Valerie. Closing remarks. Folks, I know many of you are deflated, including myself, about the results of the election. New York City, my goodness, again, my father from Cuba. This is just another Castro. I can only imagine what will happen next year in September, 9/11. How we forget. God help us. New Jersey, another important state to me. I grew up in Phillipsburg and Elizabeth. Just cannot understand people. Virginia. And here locally, folks, as our speakers said, we have to be brave and try to do our thing and to keep faithful and never to stop fighting. Remember what one of our early Americans said, I have only just begun to fight. With that, I want to thank each and every one of you for being a loyal member or guest tonight. We hope you join. You can still make your last minute purchases or renew your membership. And there's still stuff in the back of the room if you would like to empty our front cannoli cakes and brownies. I would appreciate it. We'll close with a quick prayer. Heavenly Father, we thank you for all of our speakers this evening, for all the candidates that ran this past election cycle, for Dr. Scott Janey willing to step forward and have the courage to run. May you provide him the proper resources and people to help that come to fruition. We pray for our President Donald Trump and all of our elected senators, congressmen, and their staff, that they may continue to fight to make America great again. For each and every person in this room, may you have a most blessed, happy Thanksgiving. And for those of you who listen to Rush Limbaugh, remember what he used to say about what Thanksgiving was all about. We are thankful to you for being a part of the I Valley Matter. Have a great evening. Thank you, folks.